Hi everyone, and welcome to Intro Psychology. So you should already have seen an introduction to the course from your instructor, Dr. Singleton Jackson, but I figured I would touch base with you guys as well because you'll probably be hearing a lot from me over the next 12 weeks and next term if you guys are sticking around for 1160. So I'm Keely Gardner. I'm the course instructor or course assistant for intro psychology, which basically just means because there's so many of you, there are a ton of GAs and TAs. I think there's 8 of us, me included. So I am kind of the go-between between the team of GAs and TAs and Dr. Singleton Jackson. So I help organize everything, and basically I'm the one that you're going to be hearing a lot from. So sorry in advance for all the announcements you get from me on Blackboard. I tend to lean more on the over information side of things, especially with first year students for whom all of this is a lot of new stuff. So that said, I'm usually posting for something important, so please pay attention and please read them. If it's really important, I'll have the announcement sent out as an email to students, but otherwise always keep an eye on Blackboard for announcements that come in, especially if they're not sent out as an email as well. So I know this year is going to be very different with absolutely no in-person stuff, and it kind of sucks. It's going to be weird for me anyway. I like seeing people in office hours and actually coming into the classroom once in a while and actually interacting with you guys. And I know Dr. Singleton Jackson loves interacting with you guys as well, so this is going to be weird. But we'll get through it and we'll make sure it's a really good experience for you guys. Because I know for most of you, you're psych majors going into your first year of university. So welcome. This is exciting. So I know this is probably a very weird time to start university. So hoping to make this as positive an experience as possible for you. So the whole point of this video is just kind of to touch base with me, let you know a bit, probably reiterate a lot of what Dr. Singleton Jackson has already said in her intro to the course, but just give some tips over how to university, basically, from what I've seen. So this is my 5th year of GAing for intro psych, but it's my 3rd year as the course assistant. So hoping to pass on some wisdom of how to do well in the course. So first of all, remember that your textbook is not a physical textbook in the sense. It's the 4th edition of the intro textbook by Pearson. So it comes in a online interactive text format called Revel. So you're going to be buying the access code from the bookstore and then activating it. So for that, there's a ton of information available to you on how to activate it. It's very simple. So you're going to go into the resource folder on the Blackboard course page, and then go into the Revel information folder within resources. And there you will see a PDF on how to purchase Revel, a video overview on what the heck Revel is, the student invite link, because you will follow that link and then use your access code, that your own individual one that's what you buy from the bookstore. And if you have any issues, there's also an FAQ, frequently asked questions, link there, and there's a Pearson 24/7 support line. So on average, this covers probably about 90%, 95% of issues, because they're usually maybe just a little technical thing or something like that. And for anything else, you'll be able to actually email and talk to support as well. But make sure you get that set up. Your first quiz, I believe, is due on the 25th, but will be available to you on the 15th. So make sure you get that going and you get cracking and get reading at it and just familiarize yourself with the platform. We're not using any material on Revel for grading. So all quizzes and everything will be done in Blackboard. But Revel is just, it's a pretty good interactive tool for For reading, it's not like a textbook where the page is this big and it's full of information. It breaks it up nicely into like little web pages and whatnot. So I find it's much easier to read the complex information because it's not all coming at you on this big page. But anyway, so your first thing will be to make sure you get Revel going. And if you're new to Blackboard, be sure to familiarize yourself with Blackboard. So I'd say as students, the most important areas for you would definitely be the announcements page for the announcements for the course, and then obviously your grades. But the syllabus link, where you'll see the weekly schedule, the syllabus, and the FOSS, Faculty of Health Sciences policies. So basically the things that Dr. Singleton Jackson has to adhere to. So to start, I'm just going to kind of go over the course outline and any important points. That's the syllabus. So as you know, everything's going to be online, but in addition to me, there are 7 other GAs, and their office hours aren't in there yet on the syllabus. We're actually meeting in a couple weeks. So office hours will start the week of the 21st for GAs, and every GA will hold 1 hour of office hours. And then Dr. Singleton Jackson has her own office hours. So that means there are 9-10 hours worth of office hours, including your instructor, every single week. So a lot of support for you. But in addition to myself, we have Antoinette, Cassidy, Meredith, Marissa, Angela, Katarina, and Alyssa. So all great people, all either GAs, which means we're grad students, or TAs, which means they're upper year, very accomplished undergrad students. So a very capable team. Many of them have GA'd for intro psych before, so very aware of what to expect and what support you guys may need. And really, I say this a lot of times office hours are intended. I don't know how it'll be with them being online, but you know, a lot of times we just kind of end up sitting there, maybe doing some other work while we're there. But whether or not you come, we're there, so you may as well just pop in. It really sucks on the back end if you realize you didn't understand something or you had questions and you just didn't ask, and we were there the whole time. So use us, especially since we'll just be virtually online. You don't even have to go anywhere. So moving on, course description, blah, 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 blah. So what is the course consisting of? So you're going to have 9 chapter quizzes, and each worth 1% of your grade. So you can see the deadlines on the syllabus and also on the weekly schedule. So keep a close eye on those, because there's some days that the quizzes are due on a different day of the week. So many of them are due on like a Friday, but depending on how the course falls, how holidays fall, it's not guaranteed. So you just want to make sure that you don't, maybe there's one due on, I don't know, like a Wednesday or something. You want to make sure that you don't miss that. That said, quizzes will be available a week to 10 days ahead of time. So for example, your first quiz is due on the 25th of September, but we have it set to be available to you on the 15th. So that means that if you're not working for two deadlines, you have 10 days to do this quiz. So don't leave them to the last minute. They expire at 4 p.m. on the day they're due, and basically that means they'll disappear. And if you're in the middle of working on it, when it expires, when the due date comes, you'll be kicked out. You won't be able to finish. So you don't want to leave that to the last minute, because of course that's just when everything falls apart, like your laptop freezes or you lose internet or something silly, right? So when you start the quizzes, you'll have 50 minutes to do them. There's only 25 questions, so you have 2 minutes per question, and they'll be on whatever specific chapter section it tells you. So those will be occurring throughout the semester. Your major assignment, worth 20%, is due November 2nd at 4 p.m., submitted through Blackboard. So this is an assignment we've used a lot over the past few years, and it seems to work well. I'm probably going to release the assignment within the next couple weeks, just doing some edits on it, making sure it's ready to go. And when that happens, as usual, I'll post an announcement. There'll be a folder with a lot of different resources in that folder, so be sure to go through those. Again, there'll be a ton of resources there for you, so make sure you actually use them. The instructions are kind of ridiculously detailed, so I'm sorry if it's almost overwhelming, the amount of information, but especially for first year, if this is the first time you've seen a lit review or anything like that, it's pretty valuable how much information there is in here. And especially as you go up in the years at university, you won't get anywhere near this much detail, so take advantage of it, ask questions. When the assignment is released, I'll probably do another small video just going over the assignment and what the expectations are. But it's your one written assignment, and it will be submitted through Blackboard. Not due until November 2nd, so you'll have probably 5 weeks or more to do it. So don't leave this till the last minute. Everyone always does, because you always plan to do things early, and then life gets in the way. But the sooner you start working on things, the less stressed you are, the better result you'll actually make. So look for that in the next couple weeks. The midterm exam, so that will be available at 8 a.m. on the 22nd of October until 8 a.m. on the 23rd. So 24 hours it's available, and it'll be 100 questions, multiple choice. But once you start, you'll have 120 minutes to take the exam. So basically what that means is you can go in and out. Like if you lose internet connection, don't worry, you can get back in. If you just need to take a break, rest your eyes, use the washroom, whatever. Once you start, you have 2 hours, 120 minutes. That timer keeps going. If you do close the program, you can get back in. But once you start, you only have 120 minutes to do it. But it's available for 24 hours, so you can choose what the best time is with your schedule to go in and start the exam. The final exam, the date is to be announced. So the final exam schedule at the end of the term, you're expected to be available for that whole period. Like you're going to have final exams in that period. And then in a few weeks, probably around reading week-ish, we'll find out when our final exam is. And just like the midterm, you'll have a timer. So in this case, you'll have 3 hours to do 165 questions. And then participation in mentor groups. So because you're psych majors, what we have in this course is mentors, which are 3rd, 4th year psychology students who have been there, know what it's like. Is not just starting university and intro psych, but being a psych major. So you're going to be having meetings with them. Because usually if this was real life, they would come to class and you do little breakout groups at the beginning or the end of the lecture time. And it's a really good opportunity to talk to upper year students, because they're probably some of the best resources you can have, and also for you to actually meet your classmates. So you will have little online meetings with them as well. So that is what your class is made up of. So be sure to look in the weekly schedule as well for a clear breakdown of when exactly things are due, what you're going to be doing that week, deadlines, important things like the volunteer drop date, etc. Like for example, the week of the 21st, you're going to have an APA workshop, which is invaluable for the major assignment. So you most likely have little to no experience with APA, but it's the formatting that you are going to be most familiar with in psychology. By the time you get to grad school, if that's where you're headed, it's going to be pretty much ingrained in your brain. So you really want to pay attention to this, because especially with, I think most people, if they learn a format by the time they get to university, they learn MLA, and the requirements for citations in APA versus MLA are very different. APA requires a lot more consistent citing. So I'd say the most common error is people thinking that they don't need to cite at times that they do. because APA requires it so regularly. So be sure to attend this workshop, be sure to pay attention, and there'll be a ton of resources in the resources folder on Blackboard with APA stuff, so be sure to go over that. So go over your weekly schedule, especially for the quiz deadlines, because with the quizzes, because they're available for 10 days and they're only worth 1% each, they can't be made up for any reason. So if you miss one, it's not a big deal. Of course, you don't want to miss them, but if you miss one, it's not a big deal, but you can't make them up for any reason just because they're worth so little, but they're also available for so long. So the third super important document is a document on Blackboard in the Resources tab under Weekly Schedule and Assignment Details folder. So this basically outlines all those things that I just mentioned, everything that you're going to be graded on in the course. So it breaks down the chapter quizzes, the major assignment, the midterm exam, final exam, participation in mentor groups, and then lastly, the bonus points. So for this course, you can earn up to 3 bonus points, which each bonus point is 1%. So say you finished the class with a 77, but then got 3 bonus points, that just tacks on to 77 and brings you up to an 80. So they're a really awesome opportunity to give yourself a bit of a cushion for your grade. And there's 2 ways to do this. So you can either do the alternative assignment, which the details are in this assignment overview document, or you can participate in research studies through the psychology department participant pool. So these are really cool opportunities, especially if you have any thoughts of grad school or anything, interest in research, anything like that, because these are actually studies that are done by undergrad thesis students, master's thesis, PhD dissertation. Most of the times you're actually giving us our data to graduate and get our degrees. So, for my master's thesis, when I did that, I used the participant pool. So people like you were actually helping me get my data so I could get my master's. So it's a really, really amazing opportunity because you get free percentages for your grades. Graduate and honors thesis students get data. So I know at least for this term, it's going to be all online studies. Otherwise, I would insert a very big plug begging you guys to do in-lab stuff too. But it's a really cool opportunity to see kind of how research works. So for that, you do have to register before the deadline for each semester. So you can't register at any time that you want through the semester. It's usually within the first 3 weeks of the term. But go in this document, and it includes the link to the participant pool website to register, so you can go on there and look at it yourself. So you can either do the research participation or you can do the alternative assignment. So that pretty much covers the important stuff for what the course is going to do. In the resource folder on Blackboard, that will probably be the holy grail of stuff for you for this term, because you'll see your folder for Revel information, the weekly schedule, a folder for every single chapter. For the term, rapid reviews, which is really valuable for studying for your exam. There's a folder for chapter quizzes, so all the quizzes will be in there. And what's going to happen for the quizzes is when you're done them, because they're available for 10 days, we don't want, say, I do it on day 1, and then I get all the answers. And then for 9 days, those answers could be circulating through the whole course. So what's going to happen is when you finish the quiz, you'll get your score. So you'll know how many out of 25 you got correct. But the actual answer key won't be available until the deadline is passed, just to make sure the answers aren't out there circulating. Once the deadline is passed, you can go back in to the quiz, check out your attempt, and actually see the ones that you got wrong so you can review, and then obviously the ones that you got right too, because the best way to study is by looking at, especially for multiple choice exams, is by looking back at things like these multiple choice quizzes and seeing which topics you did well, which topics you struggled with, which ones were you kind of down to those two answers and you couldn't choose between the two of them. What was the difference in that? So I really recommend going back and looking at your quizzes. Your final exam will be cumulative, which means all the chapters, so including the stuff on the midterm. So I really recommend looking back at your midterm to help you study for the final. So with that, when the exams come up, they'll also be under the resources folder, either in like the chapter quizzes folder or in another folder called exams. We'll let you know when it's there. When the major assignment comes out, there'll be another folder called major assignment. And in there will be the submission area. So when you're ready to submit, you'll go in that folder and you'll see something called major assignment, submission area, etc. And you just, click on that, click browse, pick your file, whatnot. So all of that will be done on Blackboard. And what else? So mentioning with the quizzes and the exams for studying, some people are better at multiple choice questions than long answers. Some people are the other way around. Kind of depends on what your style is. When it comes to psychology, it's much more of a choose the answer that's the best fit, not a clear black and white answer. So you will really benefit from learning and using the information, not just trying to memorize it. So, for example, a lot of questions in multiple choice for psychology are much more scenario based. So instead of, the definition of blah, blah, blah is blank. It'll be something like, Healy went out and she did this thing and then this happened. This is an example of what. So to do well in these questions, you actually need to be able to understand, not just recognize a term, but understand what it means and apply it in these questions. So a good way to study for psychology is not just relying on rote memory, so not just reading things over and over again, but actually trying to use the information. So all this stuff in psychology is basically just fancy terms people came up with to describe things that are happening in real life. So whatever you're learning about, try and think of times in your life that you might have actually seen it or had it happen or done it, or maybe you've seen it happen in a movie or to a friend, or imagine a time that it could happen. So try and actually use this information, because this is all just information that's describing human behavior. So it does happen out there. Also, try and use, the more senses you use, the better you'll learn. So not just reading, but maybe writing it out, reading it out loud to yourself so you actually hear yourself, quizzing a friend, talking to a friend about it, things like that. So the more effort, basically, that it takes to study, the more you'll know. Because rote memory only works really for a short period of time. So you don't want to just keep reading over and over again and then getting stuck. Because a good test will have a balance of hard questions and easy questions, and then mid-range questions. But within the questions, a lot of them will have those, maybe one that's an obvious not answer, but then a couple that are really close, and that kind of make or breaks the difference between kind of knowing it, like kind of knowing it enough to recognize it, and really understanding. It's those two that you're stuck on that really shows whether or not you know the information. So, that said, I taught an online course during the summer, and I count on one hand the amount of people that actually asked questions about the content, because it'd be so much easier if we were actually in a lecture room, or maybe if I had real-time lectures and people could just come up to me. If you have questions on the content, reach out to Dr. Singleton Jackson, reach out to me, reach out to any of the GAs. So if you're not understanding something, please ask, because these can be hard to understand if it's the first time that you're learning about things, right? So that's what we're here for. So don't just read it a bunch of times to remember it. Try and use it. We remember information about ourselves better than we remember information about other people or other things. So if you can make it self-referential, like applied to you at all, you'll probably remember it better. So those are some little tips and tricks when you're doing them. the reason that the timers are there is we're trying to make this as authentic a testing experience as possible, because, I mean, we can all pretend that we're not going to do it, but we can't stop you guys from having your books open. We're not there. And I mean, we weren't born yesterday. We know a lot of people probably will. So we want to try and make it as authentic as possible. So try and make sure you know, make sure you actually know the information. Otherwise, if you need to reach us, the emails are on the syllabus. You'll see the emails for all the GAs. Once we meet and everyone's office hours are designated, I'll post that under the syllabus link on Blackboard as well. But to see us for the office hours, what you're going to do is, I find Blackboard mobile is a bit of a pain. So I'm going off of having it open on a laptop. So in the left-hand column, where you see all the links for resources and syllabus and announcements and everything, there's a link called Virtual Office Hours. So you're going to click on that, and it's going to take you to a page with everyone's office hours there. So, for example, you'll see my office hours that are presently anyways, Monday and Wednesday, 1 to 2 p.m. If that changes, I'll just change it here. But what you'll do is, if you want to talk to me or you want to talk to a GA or whatever, you'll just click on that office hour time and join the session. So it's pretty much just like a little virtual chat room that every GA or TA will be sitting in at their designated times. So that's how you'll find us, because unfortunately we won't be able to do in-person office hours this term. Hopefully next term, we'll see. So that's where you'll go to find us. And if you can't make anyone's office hours, so all the GAs or NTAs are fair game. Like, you can go see anyone. It's not like you can only see me or you can only see Antoinette or something. The only exception is when the assignment grades come out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split the class by the alphabet and then designate, Antoinette, you're marking last names A to C or something like that. So when those marks come out, you'll want to talk to the person that actually marked your paper. But otherwise, like exam review, questions, anything like that, you can go see anyone. So there should be, in theory, an office hour out of all of us that fits your schedule. But if it doesn't, feel free to reach out. Or if you don't really want to go to office hours, but you just have a question or something, like, obviously feel free to reach out. But if no office hours suit your schedule, you can reach out to any of us and just try and make an appointment. That's totally fine. When you email us, we just go by the idea that we can answer on evenings and weekends if we want to. If you're like me, the notifications make me nervous because I have a really short attention span and I'll forget. So sometimes I do answer on evenings and weekends just to get it out of the way. But it's not expected. So GAs and TAs are technically under contract for only a certain amount of hours. So whatever they need to do to make sure they don't go over. But also, especially with everything being online lately, I've noticed a bit of a tendency that we're all kind of expecting everyone's online all the time anyway, because that's just how life is right now. So we're just always right there. So it's easy to fall into this expectation of 24-hour customer service kind of thing. So if you reach out to anyone, don't expect they don't have to answer on evenings, weekends, holidays. You can if you want to. Just like you can email us if you want to. That said, if it's been a couple business days and you still haven't heard back, feel free to send another poke, another email. Especially with the University of Windsor email migrating to Outlook, I lose emails a lot more than I ever have before. I just don't like the setup. But, maybe your email was just missed or something like that. So if it's been a couple business days and you haven't heard back, feel free to send another poke. That's fine. It's just if it was like 11 p.m. on a Friday and you haven't heard back, probably just wait till Monday. But otherwise, I can't think of anything important that I need to tell you. But I'm excited to see how this year goes. just because we're apart and we're not in the same room together, we're still here. So if you ever need anything, please reach out, especially with this being for most of you, your first year in university. So best of luck, and I will keep an eye out for all of my announcements and reach out if you need anything. Okay? Take care.